Helo agus fáilte bhlá ormh go trí seascad den programme BBC Alba a hadal go créas scéalach na bana-ghaisgeach ingantach an in Cille Spórs na h-Alba. Is me Iona Ballantyne agus ha mi táilte réna bhfuil seann cluiche ar bhuill-coise na h-Alba Julie Fleeting a rás choilrúms in stiùidio. Seo súlachan na hacinn ar a program na h-Alba. A seann leas chòidse na h-Alba Angie Hind a bhríonn man dreuchd chòidse éiche a thoiseach ag scólaigh Ivy College Dartmouth an sa Stàitean Aonaichte. Agus a fuireach an sa Stàitean, le Super Bowl cúchas a cóig a cluiche ar an ddíire cheachcain, Cluinnidh Bhuill-coise Thomas a chiad bhoireannach a bhíos na hoficeach ag a gceann mhór. Julie, welcome back to 360.
Thank you. Thank you.
There's been so much change since the last time you were here. The SWPL was up and running, Scotland were preparing for the Euro qualifiers, but now the SWPL has been suspended and Scotland didn't qualify. I mean, if we look at the SWPL firstly, how soon do you think that's going to be back up and running?
I think we just need to be patient. I think it's very difficult to tell in these circumstances. I think we just have to wait and see how the virus, how people cope with it over the next wee while, and of course the players will be desperate to get back out onto the pitch, but you have to be patient and make sure it's right and it's safe for all the players. The girls, I'm sure, are doing their own training, as most people are having to do at this moment in time, and I'm sure they'll be ready. Their clubs will have them ready to start back as soon as they get the green light.
Well, that's the thing. Before last year, this had never happened before. Players had never had so much time off, and I mean, it's happened again this time. To even get back to match fitness, they will really need another pre-season, won't they? Yeah,
you would think so, but I think that's the clubs are well equipped to get the players back to their best. I think also this time off, it gives players time to reflect, and I think they'll be hungrier when they do go back and appreciate everything that you've got, because they're in a very privileged position to be able to play at the highest level in Scotland, and it's a fantastic achievement. I think the players will recognise that, and I'm sure they'll give absolutely everything they've got when the time comes to be ready and give everything for their own club.
Should we be worried that we're missing talent coming through during this time?
I think you could worry about everything, couldn't you? There's so many things, so many variables, and I think the talent will be there. It might be that they're a year older, but players who want to be footballers, it'll still be there, and they'll still have the opportunity and the desire. I think it is just about being patient and accepting that these are really unbelievable circumstances. No one could predict them. We don't know how to deal with it, and it's about trying to keep people's mental health where it should be and as best it can in these situations, and I'm quite sure football will be back, and we'll all be able to enjoy it when the time is right.
Well, that's the thing in terms of mental health. I mean, so many people do rely on sport to keep them going and have that something to make them happy.
Yeah, I think it's then about using it as fitness. So get out in the fresh air. If running's your thing, if it's even just walking, just being out and being able to get fresh air and ensuring that you are staying fit and healthy throughout, because it's difficult. And I also think when you're in the house, you're working from home, everything is in the house, get outside and enjoy keeping fit, and I'm certain that the players will be doing just that to try and give themselves the best opportunity to be at the correct level of fitness when football does come back for the women's game.
Well, when it does come back, hopefully soon, the teams, a lot of them will also look quite different. We've got head coaches departing, different ones coming in, we've got players departing and more coming in. So even when they get back on the pitch, it's a new look teams for some of them.
It will be, yeah, and I'm sure there'll be other players, more competition, also different coaches they might learn other things from. I think when you're a player, that's one of the great things, is when you do, coaches do change. Of course, you're sorry to see one coach leave, but you then have another coach with other ideas, and it's all an education. You can become a better player from working with a variety of people and taking on board their ideas. And the same thing for other players. It's great to play alongside a variety of players and bring that to your own game, and I think for myself that's something that when you play with and against other players, you can take a wee bit from each of them, and it does make you a better player in general.
Well, another coach that has changed, and quite a big one, is the Scotland national team. Cille Mheàrnaig just departed her role. Do you think it was the right time?
Cille obviously thinks it's the right time, and no one knows better than Cille herself. I think the way things ended was a real shame. The fact that Cille wasn't able to be with her team in the most important games in the campaign, and these are circumstances that can't be helped. And I think the fact that she wasn't able to have that influence over the games that she would have loved to have really got a grip of. I think that you can only do so much in the training pitch, and you can only do so much through Zoom team meetings. I think that was a massive loss, not just for Cille, but of course for all of the players.
Do you think the outcome then for the Euros might have been different had she been there?
I mean, it's all hindsight, but I would say yes. I think having your coach on the touchline to spur the team on, to make decisions when you're actually there, possibly her decisions would have been different. And yes, I would say yeah, but of course it's all in hindsight. The game might have went differently. I think the tactics for the game were spot on. The lineup was spot on. Who Cille put out on the pitch, and it was just one of those things where we couldn't score when we needed to, and a real shame, because I think that's the level that the Scottish national team is at now, and to not be going to a tournament is a real shame for the talent that we've got in the squad.
It certainly is, but I mean, they do have Stuart McLaren, who has come in as interim coach. Do you think that was the right thing to do, or should they have appointed a head coach that will lead the team on?
I think obviously they're looking to get the right person, and I think that is the right decision. I think you want to take your time and make sure that you've got the right fit for our national side. Having someone at the moment, it's not a great time to be making appointments. So yeah, I think that is the correct thing to do. If they don't have someone who they think is right, then why rush? Because it's going to be someone that we're hoping will lead the national team to more tournaments.
All right, thank you, Julie. A sé ná blianaide go cluiche agus bhuireannach a thuaidh farpéis Cille Mheàrnaig, cluiche Angie Hind chun na Stàitean Aonaichte, far an dúirí chòidse dreuchd chòidse Cluinnidh.
SWNT blianaide go bhuireannach go thuaidh farpéis mar chluiche ar Cille Mheàrnaig. Gag Angie Hind alpa gus táise go dríach an na còidse Cluinnidh ag scoilligh Ivy ans na Stàitean Aonaichte.
My boss at the time was Jim Fleeton, and I went to Jim and said, I've been offered this job in the States and I think I'm going to take it. And he's like, don't be silly, you know, don't be silly, you can be here, you get national coach, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, 27 years old and I need to coach and I can do it there, and it's a great opportunity for me to learn a different culture in the sport as well. And I literally had spoken for about 2 minutes and he said, you know what, you're right. Because I think he realised that it is a little bit unfair for any female at that time, because we just weren't allowed to coach anywhere. There just wasn't opportunities to do it and make a living. So, and here it's obviously completely the opposite. So yeah, it was the right thing for me at the right time. But I do remember being on the plane myself and thinking to myself, what in the world am I doing? I'm not this brave. And the person sitting next to me must have thought, oh, I'm going to have this blubbering idiot all the way to the States, you know, because I was breaking my heart thinking, I can't believe I'm doing this. But no, it all worked out well in the end, very well. And it's been a great journey. You know, I spent the first year and a half figuring out all the legalities and the rules and how the American college system really works, and recruiting, which is a huge part of things here. So I really got a good apprenticeship for that first, you know, year and a half. So it was just lucky. And to land at Dartmouth, I mean, that's I could talk for 3 hours about the culture shock there. You know, these kids their parents are flying in for the day in their own private jet. And I'm thinking, you know, I've just left Kilmarnock where I've been selling hidden teams to pay for the referee, you know, and now I'm in this, like, these people are not just millionaires, some of them billionaires, and I'm working with their kids. So it was a huge culture shock, but immensely educational for me in every way, you know, in every way. It was great.
Chuad Angie seachad 6 bliana ag Dartmouth mas dúdaí córam Cille Mheàrnaig gus opad Colladí Anna Sinol, mar leis chòidse d'Alba am san imirt achcha go Euro 2013.
When Anna contacted me about the job, I was like, you know, I would love to go back and make a difference back home, you know, and so I was really excited about it. And also at that time to get to see some of the young players that I remember Christy Murray, like, I coached her when she was 11 years old, and then to go back home and she's a national team player, that was fantastic. Megan Snedden, Joe Love, all these guys. So it was a great opportunity and I enjoyed it. But I have to be honest, I found it quite challenging to go from being a head coach to an assistant and not working with the players a lot. You know, that's really, really hard. And it was a great experience, but I think it wasn't maybe the right fit for me.
As Joey and Brishig dúil go Alpa neo soirbheachail am san imirt achcha go na Euros, chuad Angie Corrum a bhí na príomh chòidse ag Rangers.
At the time, Rangers had a really young team. They had 15s, 17s, and they were winning everything at youth level, and really the senior team just weren't so successful. And I said, okay, I'm not here for the long stint, and you know how that always starts. No, just help us out a little bit, and that's something that makes me tick, sport and building something. And I really, really enjoyed that challenge and bringing some of the. Initially, I had to pull some strings and bring some of the old players in, the old guard, just to give some experience to the younger players, and we did great. And I think it was a really good platform that we built up for them. So that was fun, and I loved it. You know, my heart's back home, and I would absolutely love to be doing what I'm doing here back home, but I just can't right now. So it was great. It was a great 3-4 years to be back there, and then, you know, this opportunity just came up here, and there I go again. My mum's crying at the door, and I've got my bags packed.
An na 2014, híl Angie a ddáis go na Stàitean Aonaichte mar phríomh chòidse bhuill-coise an ban ag seann Ollaigh Dominion an na Virginia.
It was a program that weren't doing so well, and that just ticks the page for me. If everything's there to make it successful, like it was at Rangers, I think you can do that when you have all the support and the finances and the facilities and the right people around you. And so I've loved just the journey that we've had here so far. It's really interesting to me to put the cultural experiences together to form what I would suggest as a philosophy. I think I've been really fortunate to grow up in Scotland, and the mindset where, you know, you got to toughen up, you know, big girls don't cry kind of thing, and get on with it. And then I progressed to being educated a little bit with the Scottish FA and the way they do things through coaching. But really, when you're on the field back home, you stop it when you need to fix something. I've learned that it's equally as important to stop something when it's really, really good, because your players need to understand when it's a really good moment, because if you highlight that, one, they feel confident, and two, they're more likely to seek to do it again. I think the mentality for winning matters is important. And my friends back home in Scotland, if they hear this, are going to cringe. But Americans know how to win. And I think that's part of the reason that they're successful. And technically, as a coach, we spend so much time making them better, but they have an intrinsic desire to win. And I think sometimes in Scotland, we've lost that a little bit, because winning does matter, and it doesn't need to be a negative environment just because there's a winning and losing mentality. I think you manage that the right way. And I think in the environment that we're in right now, when there's so many issues and problems in society, I think if we can blend that culture a little bit, I think my philosophy is to be positive where we can, to challenge the kids to be the best that they can be, and see them through when it's hard, yeah, because life's hard, and encourage them to win.
Julie, a nice wee mention of your dad at the start there, and actually his influence on Angie's career and moving out to the States.
Yeah, he worked with Angie when she was over here in, I think it was the community programme, or as a development officer. for the SFA. So before I actually played with Angie, I knew her through my dad working alongside her, and yeah, he'll always speak very, very highly of Angie. She was a great person to have around, and always so bubbly and so positive. So it was really nice to hear her speak of him.
And like you just mentioned there, you did have a time playing alongside her at Scotland.
Yeah, we were in the national team together, and Angie was probably one of the older players in the squad at that time, and someone who you knew you could rely on. She was a leader off the pitch as well as on it, and she was a great person just to have in the squad. Always very funny and as I said, very positive, and yeah, she's a great person, and you can see why she's been so successful over in the States.
Yeah, totally. You do see that drive within her, and I think, as she said, I mean, at 27, moving out to the States, this huge job, like emotional on the plane, but actually what she's achieved has been incredible.
Yeah, I know, and it was great just being able to hear her story from her side of it, and the more emotional side, and what she was going through, and how big a decision it was for her to leave a full-time job, which I'm sure she enjoyed. It was in football, but to be able to go there and have other experiences and develop herself as a coach within the women's game, and she's done fantastically well, and the people that she has worked with over there are very, very lucky, because I think in Scotland we lost a fantastic coach when Angie moved over there.
You'll also know what she was talking about with the culture shock and your time playing in America. I mean, she's talking about being in Kilmarnock, and then suddenly you've got millionaires and billionaires arriving on their private jets. You just don't see that here.
I had the right laugh when she was talking about we're getting hidden teams to pay referees, because that is exactly what it was like. And when Angie left at that time, and the league in Scotland, you were paying money towards the referee, and you were playing in the top league in women's football, and that was the way that you were able to contribute and for the league to continue, because it was nowhere near where it is at the moment, and very difficult. That's how much people wanted to play the game, was that they were willing to pay, and they were willing to fundraise just to make sure their club stayed alive. And
a total change then from that over to America, where things are just booming in sport.
Yeah, I felt that myself as well when I went from United to San Diego Spirit, who were a professional side. They sold out their stadium every game. I was used to playing in Prestwick Oval, which was a public park, and the only people who were at the game were parents or partners, or people who happened to be walking their dog behind the goals, maybe stop for 5 minutes. So it was a massive culture change. I know exactly what she means, and it is a great place to go out there, because women's football is thought of so highly, and the people really appreciate what you do in the women's game.
Well, like she said, Americans know how to win. I mean, she said it might make people cringe back home. Does it make you cringe, or can you understand where she's coming from?
You can understand. They have that type of mentality, and I think we have it here in Scotland as well, or we certainly have that fighting desire, and I can see what she means, and I know, you know, the stick that you get from people. She'll be talking about her friends that'll be saying that her accents maybe change slightly, and that she is all for the States, and it'll just be a bit of banter, and that's exactly what she'll mean. But she's the right person to talk about it. She's been there for years now. She'll have seen so many players come through her university and go on and get their education there, but also improve as people and as footballers.
Well, she also mentions just that kind of difference with America and Scotland, about maybe the desire to win being lost a little bit here. Do you feel that in Scotland, and even as a teacher, do you see that within your pupils, or as a player?
I think you see it's very varied. I think there is a variety of people who, some are not really into the whole competitive nature of football, and it's not for them. I think within the game itself, I think there is that desire. I think the national team itself, the players in it are desperate to win. They do absolutely everything off the pitch, on the training pitch, in the lead up to games. But possibly within wider than that, there's not the same amount of people who have that desire to win, and I think when you narrow it down, those are the people who go on to be successful.
So hopefully we won't always be glorious failures.
Hopefully not.
Sarah Thomas bhíon sas an NFL is an choras cóig bliana. Ach an deireadh cheachcéin bína hofacoch ag an Super Bowl. A chiad fáireannach a haar leas dh'urram ein. An taim bana-ghaisgeach me géin maha.
When I was in 5th grade, I was the only female girl that played on the basketball team in Pascagoula, Mississippi, and I was influenced strongly by my aunt, Jill Upton. Fast forward, I graduate college, then I'm not playing basketball anymore, and so then I play in a men's church league. And I was kicked out of that league because I was a female. My older brother Lee was officiating high school football, but I had no idea that he was doing that. But I joined him at a high school football officials meeting. And that's where my journey with officiating started. I walked into that first meeting, had no idea that there were no females that were working it, because playing basketball in college or high school, you saw females out there officiating basketball. And I fell in love in that moment whenever I was taken back that you got to be kidding me. These guys actually get together and discuss rules and what if scenarios and just plays that happen and challenge each other. And it felt that I could give back in a sense to just organize sports. I love sports, but this football officiating thing took off. And after 10 seasons in high school and 2 children, I thought that I was not going to do it any longer. But I worked a high school playoff game, and there was an NFL scout there, Dr. Joe Haynes. He got me plugged in with Gerald Austin of Conference USA. Gerald hired me, and my career in college began. I attended clinics, I worked in the UFL, I worked in arena ball, and then I got the phone call from the NFL in 2015. And here I am, wrapping up my 6th season, hopefully in Tampa, Florida, Super Bowl. Stay safe and healthy from this COVID virus. It's just a different year, but my journey in officiating started a long time ago. It wasn't that it just started when I really started officiating.
A bhuill-coise a-mheànach is páirsmór chluiche an an bé Sarah Thomas.
I didn't play the game of football, but I have been blessed to officiate the game of football. Fell in love with it, refereeing, officiating, junior high, high school games, college, and now in the NFL. But I will tell you what officiating football has done for my life. It has enhanced the foundation that my parents have laid before me, all those coaches have laid before me, and my ability to just try to keep it together, problem solve, work as a team, and also just be a part of a crew of officials, fraternity, if you will, because at this time I'm the only female there on the field with all these guys. But it has taught me so much about life, to not go out and do things for the recognition, to not do things to prove people wrong, but to truly love what you're doing. And I absolutely love officiating football.
Ní séra eachtrií mar a chiad fod yn yddiaf a bhí a phríalag an Super Bowl. Dh'urram a haid a bhí a gasla me géing son úne fàilte.
Being selected for this year's Super Bowl in Tampa and being the first female that has been selected to do such, it means a lot to me. I have a precious little girl that is watching her mom, not just on a football field, but daily at home, and I want her to know, seeing it, believing it, and you can do it. And I just spoke with her this morning actually, and she had a neat little test that she had to take, and she said, Mom, they asked what I wanted to do in the future, and I told them I wanted to be a mom, a teacher, and a ref like my mom. So I'm just saying, it's just so meaningful. I never set out to be the first at all in any of this. But knowing the impact that I'm having on not just my daughter, but young girls everywhere, women everywhere. And when I get on that field and I take it all in, I know that I'm probably going to get a little teary-eyed. Just understand this is remarkable, and I'm truly honored and humbled to be a part of this year's Super Bowl group.
Has éar a tálaigte go bhfuil barach gus bailach baideanach a gobad an dríoch in art inmhe san spárs.
When I started officiating, there were very few females officiating in football. I don't believe that there were any in the state of Mississippi whenever I started, and now to see so many females officiating across the country, not only that, but I just got an email the other day from overseas from some female football officials, and it's across the world to see the impact of the amount of females that are out there officiating football. My message is, do it because you love it. Don't do it because you want the recognition, but I think there's power in numbers, and when you start having more and more and more females, no one's doing it for the recognition. They are doing it because they love it. So I have to just pay, I have to pay tribute to the men too that walked this before me, because there weren't any women in college or in the NFL that I could look up to. And if it hadn't been for the men that accepted me and saw that I was doing it for the same reasons that they were, I wouldn't be where I am if it weren't for the officials in Pascagoula, Mississippi, and Conference USA, and all the fraternity of football officials that are still currently in the NFL and the ones who have retired. So to that, I want to say thank you, guys.
Julie, another remarkable story. How did you feel watching that?
Yeah, it was very, very inspiring. She's had a fantastic career, and just being able to hear it, her taking you from the start of her journey all the way to the end, and the opportunity that she's now getting through her own successes are just incredible, and it really is a fantastic story. Well,
at the start of her career, I mean, for so many people that we've heard from on this programme, a common theme that runs through it is that in the past they were often the only women on the team. You have to have a thick skin really to push those boundaries, don't you?
Yeah, you absolutely do. And when I first started playing football, I was the only female in the whole league. I was playing at under-9 level in a boys' club. I was the only girl in the team, in the league, and I think for me that's where you develop that mental strength, because there was so many people talking about you. I remember turning up for the game, and there's a lassie playing in that team, and everyone was whispering, and for me it didn't faze me one bit, and I think that is where you get the mental strength from so early on that carries you all the way through, because you almost want to prove to people, you feel like you've got more to prove than the boys in your team, that I'm good enough to be here, I'm here the same as you, I deserve to be on this pitch, and I'm going to show you that. And I think it's definitely about your mental strength when you're a female within a male-dominated sport.
Well, we probably have lost a lot of talent kind of coming through the ranks from that, who just didn't want to put up with that.
Yeah, and it's not easy. You can see that there are a lot of people who have a negative attitude to females being in football, and in America, football over there as well, and that could be off-putting if you don't have the people behind you to support you, to help you through it, and you don't have the mental strength to carry yourself. Then you can see why lots of people drift out of the sport, and there are probably an awful lot of talented people who, had they had a lot more support right at the beginning, would have been able to continue.
Well, for Sarah, I mean, when you think about it, Super Bowl 55, and she's the first female to be involved on the officiating team. I mean, that's huge to take it to get to Super Bowl 55. Is this too late almost? Not too late, but
you almost feel that for her to have got there, she must be so much better than everyone else. Not on a par, because they'll have to have also taken into account that we haven't had females at this stage before. She must be incredible at what she does. She must be fantastic, and she deserves to be there. I'm sure she has the respect of the players, the clubs, the people that she works alongside, the team, and she must be an incredible person, because she's got so far in her career, and she's obviously doing an incredible job.
And breaking down so many barriers for women coming through behind her now.
Yeah, I think it's now someone that people can look up to, anyone who has had that type of career in their sight and has felt that you can't go as far as the Super Bowl level, and I think for other people then she is leading the way and she becomes an icon and a role model for everyone who wants to follow in her footsteps. And the way she speaks, she's fantastic, she's very inspiring, and that's exactly what you would want in a role model.
Well, I'm sure you can probably relate to her when she talks about being a mother and her daughter looking up to her. I mean, is it important for you, for your daughters, to have that outlook on life too?
There's lots of things that you want your daughters to look to, and to be successful in something that they love is so important. To have strong females round about them and to be able to live a healthy lifestyle. And you can see that she obviously health is very important, fitness is very important, and her daughter will be able to see her in that type of environment. And for me, it's really important that my girls know that that's the type of life that we live in our house, and we exercise, we look after ourselves, and I feel that if that's in there every day, then it'll continue throughout their entire life. It's almost like building that lifelong learning of they might never go on to be footballers, and that's absolutely fine, but I want them to make sure that they understand how important it is, and also what you can get from sport. Because for me, and exactly the same as Sarah, the foundations and the things that sport can teach you and the impact it can have on your life is way beyond just playing the game.
It is quite amazing, isn't it? But if we just look closer to home, just last month we had Stephanie Frappert. She was the first woman to referee a men's Champions League match. Now this weekend we've got the first female referee at the FIFA Club World Cup. Has it taken too long for this to happen?
You want to think that it's taken this long for them to be good enough, and not that they have closed the door on people who have been good enough before and haven't been allowed. Now that we can see more and more females coming into the game as officials is great, the more success that they have, and it also gives you the opportunity to select from a lot more people. You're not just looking at the males within the game, but the females have got so much to offer, and the fact that we have them now creeping into big stages is great, and the more women that can be a part of it, then the better for everyone, I think.
And definitely a step in the right direction.
Yes.
Well, sin air son program Cille Mheànaig Julie son bhí cholarúm san studio. Fuite sé bhar lentil gach seachcin ar YouTube, mar sin Jan cín seachcin aon sibh go bhfuil a córt a bhréibh go bhí sibh gur lentil agus nach cail sibh program san bí. Cynnig chu gre seo an program acibse, mar sin sgelbhan ag fat is farsing agus go mhór a bh coid. The back spórs fór nach na h-Alba, mar sin leibh an draft.